Welcome. I am Lucinda Curran, your host for the 2016 Environmental Sensitivity Symposium, and today I'm introducing you to Michael Pinto. Hello and welcome, Michael.
Hi, Lucinda. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Now, your work is linked to environmental sensitivities. Can you tell us a little bit about this, please?
Well, actually, my work is related to helping people with all sorts of indoor contaminants, and then a subset of that are individuals that would have sensitivities. And unfortunately, we're one of the few consulting companies in the United States and maybe even around the world that has tended to focus on that subgroup of people with sensitivities. So we started broad and then continued to narrow in because of the special problems that some of the people with sensitivities face.
What are some of those problems?
The biggest one that got us started in this is that the work the work to remove the contaminants wasn't being done thoroughly enough. The source of the contaminants was being removed, but not all of the residual parts and pieces that go along with it. So I don't want to say that it's rocket science because it really is quite straightforward when you look at it. If people are sensitized by little bits of things, then we need to get rid of the little bits as well as the big bits.
That makes sense. And a lot of what you're doing too, and I guess referring to there is mold in particular, apart from other indoor contaminants.
Absolutely. But I do think that the emphasis on mold is a bit misplaced because mold doesn't happen unless you have water in a building somewhere. And if you've got the conditions for the mold to grow, then you also have bacteria and you also have other things. And this scientific drive, I think early on, 10 or 15 years ago, to somehow figure out, well, what was the one bad mold and how did it get here? I think that's thrown us off a little bit because it's more of a, it's an environment. And when you change the environment from a dry environment like a normal home is or a building is to a wet one, then you're changing a lot of factors. And I think you have to look at all that.
Totally. Now, this is a very personal question, and I always call it the curly question, but what is the first thing that you ever wanted to be?
Wow, the first thing that I ever wanted to be, aside from when I was real little and wanted to be a cowboy, like I think a lot of little kids do, from an elementary school age, I always wanted to be a teacher. And it took me a while to get there. I ended up going the route of being a regulator. I worked for the state government for the safety programs and then an administrator in a number of different programs before I looped back around to doing teaching as part of my consulting work.
Fantastic. And it's lovely that is really what you've ended up doing. And maybe the cowboy influence is dealing with the cowboys that are doing the wrong thing, helping people understand and reining it all back in and making the world a better place.
Well, I've never really thought of myself as the environmental sheriff, but maybe I'll get myself a little badge now and I can put that on and I can be the environmental sheriff.
That'd be great. Well deserved, I think, too. Okay, and the final question for our little interview here is, what is something that inspires you?
Oh, that's actually a fairly easy question for me, and that is that I'm so motivated by helping people and seeing people progress, particularly when they get to us and they've gone through so many different things and so many different pieces of advice. And I mean, by the time they get to us, it seems a lot of times it seems very, I'm sorry, I'm struggling here, but it seems to us to be so straightforward that it's hard for us to realize that some of these other, consultants and contractors and stuff miss this. And so what really motivates us is being able to share this information and explain it in ways that people understand, and then see them take that and get better and make their lives better. So it sounds fairly altruistic, but that's kind of who I am.
It's a gift though, isn't it? Like just to be able to see the difference. And it's such a blessing, I think, to actually see that what you do does make a difference for somebody and their health.
And I think one of the reasons that we do specialize in the sensitized individuals is because you do have to stick with them a little bit longer. You have to put more effort into them. They have more issues that are going on, and you have to kind of dig in and be there to help them for the long run. And in many cases, that's not the way that the business world is set up. And even medicine, you go into the emergency room, if they can stitch you up, that's one thing. But if they have to really dig in and try and figure out what's wrong, sometimes they don't have the time or the patience to do that. And I think that's another thing I've learned is that you really just have to be patient and you have to listen to people and you have to sort through a lot of chatter in terms of how they're explaining things to figure out where the science is and where the pain stops and the science begins many times.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for explaining. And everybody, if you'd like to hear more from Michael Pinto, you can join us at the Environmental Sensitivity Symposium.